r/ProRevenge girlfriend destroyed my phone, so I made her pay every penny. The sound of my phone hitting the concrete was like a gunshot in the quiet parking lot. I watched in stunned silence as my brand new Samsung Galaxy S23 Ultra, all $1,200 worth of it, exploded into a spider web of glass and twisted metal against the asphalt. Sarah stood there breathing hard, her face flushed red with rage, my phone case still clutched in her trembling fist. "There," she screamed. "Now you can't text your little whore anymore." My brain struggled to process what had just happened. 30 seconds ago, we'd been walking to her car after grabbing coffee near campus. Everything seemed normal until she grabbed my phone out of my pocket and started scrolling through my messages. I should have seen the warning signs. Sarah had been getting increasingly paranoid about my female classmates over the past few months, but nothing could have prepared me for this. "Sarah, what the hell?" I knelt down and picked up the mangled remains of my phone. The screen was completely shattered, the back panel had separated from the frame, and I could see internal components scattered across the ground. "This phone cost me $1,200. I don't care." She was practically hyperventilating now. "You were texting Emma about meeting up for your study group." "Don't lie to me, I know what that means." "It literally means study group." I held up a piece of my destroyed phone screen. "For our computer science project. The one that's due next week. The one I've been working on for 3 months." My stomach dropped as the full implications hit me. This wasn't just about the phone itself. My entire CS project was stored locally on the device, 3 months of coding, research, documentation, everything. Sure, some of it was backed up to the cloud, but not everything. Not the latest version I'd been working on yesterday. Not the presentation files. Not the photos from our team meetings that I'd need for the final documentation. And then there were the personal photos. 2 years worth of memories from college, family gatherings, my grandmother's 90th birthday party last month. Photos that existed nowhere else because I'd been meaning to back them up but never got around to it. "Your project." Sarah's voice dripped with sarcasm. "Oh, I'm so sorry I ruined your precious little project with your precious little girlfriend. Emma has a boyfriend. You've met him. Multiple times." I was shouting now, drawing stares from other students walking by. "This is insane, Sarah. You just destroyed my phone because I was coordinating homework." She crossed her arms and glared at me defiantly. "Maybe now you'll think twice before disrespecting me." "Disrespecting you?" I stood up, clutching the phone fragments. "By doing schoolwork. By trying to pass my classes. By flirting with other girls right in front of me." I stared at her, really seeing her for the first time in months. When had she become this person? The Sarah I'd started dating 2 years ago was confident, funny, supportive. This version was jealous, controlling, and apparently violent. When had asking about homework become flirting? When had having female friends become betrayal? "You're going to pay for this," I said quietly. She laughed, actually laughed. "It's just a phone, Tyler. Get over it. Maybe your parents will buy you a new one. Just a phone. 3 months of irreplaceable work. Thousands of photos. Gone. Because my girlfriend couldn't handle me having a normal conversation with a classmate about homework." As I stood there in that parking lot, surrounded by the ruins of my phone, something fundamental shifted inside me. This wasn't just about the money anymore. The ride back to my apartment was suffocating. Sarah acted like nothing had happened, chatting about her plans for the weekend while I sat in the passenger seat clutching a plastic bag full of phone fragments. Every few minutes, she'd glance over at me with this satisfied smirk, like she'd won some kind of victory. "You're being dramatic," she said as we pulled into my complex. "It's not like anyone died." I didn't trust myself to respond. The full scope of what I'd lost was still hitting me in waves. My phone wasn't just expensive, it was my lifeline. My calendar with all my class schedules and assignment due dates. My 2-factor authentication for every important account I had. My mobile banking app. My digital student ID. Everything. "I'll call you later," she said as I got out of the car. No apology. No offer to help replace what she destroyed. She actually had the nerve to blow me a kiss as she drove away. Back in my apartment, I dumped the phone pieces onto my desk and just stared at them. My roommate Jake emerged from his room, took one look at the wreckage, and whistled low. "Dude. What happened?" Sarah happened. Jake had never liked Sarah. He'd been dropping hints for months about her controlling behavior and how she was isolating me from my friends. I'd always defended her, made excuses. Not anymore. "She threw your phone." Jake examined a particularly mangled piece of the screen. "This thing is obliterated, man. Like, completely unsalvageable." "I know." I slumped into my desk chair. "Jake, my CS project was on there. The final version. Everything." His face went pale. Everything. Like, the whole semester's work. 3 months of code. All my research notes. The presentation I was supposed to give next week. I felt sick just saying it out loud. I have some older backups on my laptop, but I'll basically have to recreate the last month of work from scratch. "Can't you get an extension?" Professor Martinez doesn't give extensions. You know that. And even if he did, I'd have to explain that my girlfriend destroyed my phone because she was jealous of my study partner. I laughed bitterly. How pathetic does that make me sound? Jake was quiet for a moment. "Tyler, this is insane. You realize this is insane, right? Normal people don't destroy other people's stuff when they're mad." I knew he was right, but hearing it out loud made my chest tighten with embarrassment. How had I let things get this bad? Looking back, I could see the pattern now, the gradual escalation. First, it was just comments about my female friends. Then it was guilt trips when I spent time with anyone she didn't approve of. Then it was demanding to see my texts. I'd given in each time, thinking I was being a good boyfriend, thinking compromise was healthy. But this? This was assault on my property. This was sabotage of my education. This was financial destruction. I asked her to pay for it, I told Jake. She laughed at me. Seriously? She laughed. Jake shook his head in disgust. Tyler, you have to break up with her. Tonight. This is beyond toxic. I know. But even as I said it, I realized breaking up wasn't enough anymore. Sarah had cost me more than just a phone. She might have cost me my grade, possibly my GPA, potentially my graduation timeline. The CS project was worth 40% of my final grade in my most important class. And she thought it was funny. My laptop chimed with an email notification. It was from Emma, my study partner, the one Sarah was so jealous of. Hey Tyler, just confirming we're still meeting tomorrow at 2 p.m. to finalize the project presentation. Can you bring those photos from our last testing session? Thanks. I stared at the email, then at the destroyed phone pieces, then back at the email. Sarah had no idea what she'd just unleashed. I spent the next hour trying to salvage something, anything, from the wreckage. Jake helped me disassemble what was left of the phone, hoping maybe the storage chip had survived, but it was hopeless. The internal components were scattered and damaged beyond repair. What about data recovery services? Jake suggested, holding up a bent piece of circuit board. I looked into it once before when my laptop crashed, I said. For this level of physical damage? We're talking $1,500 to $2,000, and that's with no guarantee they can recover anything. The irony wasn't lost on me. Sarah had destroyed a $1,200 phone, and now it might cost me another $2,000 just to try getting my files back. Plus I'd still need to buy a replacement phone immediately. I couldn't function as a college student without one. I was looking at nearly $4,000 in damages. Because my girlfriend got jealous over homework. That night, I couldn't sleep. Every time I closed my eyes, I saw Sarah's satisfied smirk as she drove away. Just a phone, she'd said. Like my 3 months of work meant nothing. Like my education was disposable. Like I was disposable. Around 2 a.m., I gave up on sleep and opened my laptop. I had to assess the damage properly. My CS project backup was 3 weeks old, better than nothing, but still missing crucial components. The facial recognition algorithm I'd finally gotten working. The user interface redesign. The performance optimizations that had taken me weeks to perfect. I opened my email and started typing. Professor Martinez. I'm writing to inform you of an incident that may affect my ability to present my project as scheduled. Due to circumstances beyond my control, I've lost 3 weeks of project work and will need to. I deleted it. Jake was right, how pathetic did it sound? Sorry professor, my girlfriend destroyed my homework. Like some ridiculous excuse a middle schooler would make. Instead, I opened a new browser tab and searched small claims court filing requirements. If Sarah thought this was over, she was about to learn otherwise. I wasn't some pushover who'd just absorb a $4,000 loss because his girlfriend had anger management issues. The research was eye-opening. In our state, I could sue for up to $5,000 in damages. I'd need documentation, receipts, proof of the incident. But it was absolutely doable. More importantly, everything would be public record. I thought about Sarah's job at the upscale marketing firm downtown. About her pristine social media presence where she portrayed herself as this successful, put-together professional. About her family, who thought she was their perfect daughter who could do no wrong. What would they think when they found out she'd been charged with destruction of property? When the court documents showed she'd sabotaged her boyfriend's education over imaginary infidelity? My phone, my destroyed phone, had actually been recording when she grabbed it. The audio backup feature I'd enabled months ago. If any of that had uploaded to the cloud before she smashed it. I logged into my Google account and checked the automatic backup files. My heart raced as I scrolled through the recent uploads. There, a partial audio file from this afternoon, right around the time everything happened. I downloaded it and hit play. Sarah's voice came through my laptop speakers. Now you can't text your little whore anymore. Then the sound of impact, followed by her saying, maybe now you'll think twice before disrespecting me. Clear as day. Recorded evidence of her admitting to the destruction and her motive. I sat back in my chair, staring at the audio file. This changed everything. This wasn't just he said she said anymore. This was documented proof of what she'd done. Tomorrow, I'd file the paperwork. Tonight, I had other preparations to make. Sarah wanted to play games with my life. Fine. But she'd picked the wrong person to mess with. I wasn't the same pushover who'd been making excuses for her behavior for months. It was time she learned that actions have consequences. The next morning, I woke up with a splitting headache and a new sense of determination. I'd barely slept, but my mind was crystal clear about what needed to happen. Sarah had crossed a line, and I wasn't going to let her get away with it. My first stop was the phone store. I needed a replacement immediately, not just for daily life, but to document everything properly. The sales rep's eyes widened when I showed him the photos I'd taken of the wreckage. Jesus, man. What happened? Did a truck run over it? Something like that. I selected the same model phone I'd lost. Another $1,200 down the drain, but I needed the receipt for court. I'll also need a case, screen protector, everything I had before. As I waited for them to transfer my cloud data to the new device, my stomach sank. Most of my recent photos hadn't backed up. The CS project files were still missing their latest versions. 3 weeks of work, just gone. Walking back to campus, my new phone buzzed with messages. Sarah had texted me 12 times since last night. Tyler, you're being ridiculous. Call me. I can't believe you're ignoring me over a stupid phone. You know I have anger issues. I'm working on it. My mom wants to take us to dinner Friday. Don't embarrass me by being dramatic. The entitlement in those messages made my blood boil. She destroyed thousands of dollars worth of my property and schoolwork, and somehow I was the one being dramatic. She was already trying to control the narrative, to make this about my reaction instead of her actions. I screenshotted every message. Evidence. At the courthouse, the clerk walked me through the small claims process. You'll need documentation of the damages, proof of ownership, and any evidence of the defendant's responsibility for the destruction. I handed over my receipts for both phones, the data recovery quote I'd gotten that morning, and printed screenshots of Sarah's texts. The clerk raised an eyebrow at the audio file I'd uploaded. She admitted to breaking it. She was proud of it. I filled out form after form, each signature making this more real. She thought it was justified. Well, you've got a strong case. Filing fee is $150, and she'll be served within 5 business days. Walking across campus afterward, I felt lighter than I had in months. But that feeling evaporated when I spotted Emma outside the library. I'd been dreading this conversation. Tyler. There you are. I tried calling you yesterday, she stopped mid-sentence, seeing my expression. What's wrong? I lost the project files. The words felt like ash in my mouth. The latest version, all our recent work. It's gone. Emma's face went pale. Gone how? What do you mean gone? I gave her the short version, watching her expression shift from confusion to horror to anger. By the time I finished, she was furious. She destroyed your phone because we were working together. Emma's voice carried across the quad. That's insane. Tyler, that's actually psychotic. Keep your voice down, I glanced around nervously. People are staring. Good. They should stare. This is unbelievable. Emma paced in front of the library entrance. Do you realize what this means for our presentation? Tyler, we're supposed to demo the facial recognition feature tomorrow. The feature that only exists in a version she destroyed. My stomach churned. I'd been so focused on my own losses that I hadn't fully considered how this affected Emma too. She'd put months of work into this project alongside me. Can we recreate it? I asked desperately. Emma stopped pacing and looked at me like I'd grown a second head. Tyler, that algorithm took us 3 weeks to debug. 3 weeks. And the presentation is tomorrow afternoon. The full weight of Sarah's sabotage hit me like a truck. This wasn't just about my phone or my grade anymore. She torpedoed Emma's semester too. I'm going to fix this, I said, though I had no idea how. I promise, I'll figure something out. But as Emma walked away shaking her head, I realized Sarah had damaged more than just my property. She'd attacked my reputation, my relationships, my future. And she was about to learn that some mistakes you can't take back. That afternoon, I sat in Professor Martinez's office, watching his expression grow darker with each detail I reluctantly shared. I tried to craft some professional explanation for my missing project files, but there was no way around the truth. Let me make sure I understand this correctly, Professor Martinez said, leaning back in his chair. Your girlfriend destroyed your phone, which contained the only current version of your semester project, because she was jealous of your study partner. Heat crawled up my neck. Yes, sir. He was quiet for a long moment, studying me with the kind of look that made me feel like a complete failure. Tyler, in 15 years of teaching, I've heard every excuse imaginable. This is certainly unique. I know how it sounds. It sounds like you made poor personal choices that are now affecting your academic performance. His words hit like a slap. And unfortunately, it's also affecting Miss Chen's performance, since you were project partners. The way he said Emma's name made my stomach drop. Professor, Emma had nothing to do with this. If anyone's grade should suffer, it should be mine. That's not how group projects work. Professor Martinez pulled up something on his computer. Miss Chen has maintained a 3.9 GPA in this program. She's one of my most promising students. And now, because of your personal drama, her final project is compromised. I wanted to crawl under his desk and disappear. What if we could recreate the missing work? We still have until tomorrow. Mr. Thompson. His voice carried the finality of a judge's gavel. The facial recognition component you described represents weeks of advanced programming. You know as well as I do that it cannot be recreated overnight. Then what do we do? Professor Martinez sighed heavily. You'll present what you have. Your previous backup, whatever functionality still exists. Miss Chen will receive partial credit based on her documented contributions. As for your grade. He shrugged. We'll see what you can salvage. Walking out of his office, I felt like I'd been hit by a truck. Sarah's moment of rage wasn't just going to cost me money, it was going to destroy my GPA. Potentially my graduation timeline. And I dragged Emma down with me. My phone buzzed with another text from Sarah, stop being a baby. Come over tonight and we'll talk. The casual dismissiveness in that message made me see red. She still didn't get it. In her mind, this was just some relationship spat that I was blowing out of proportion. I was typing back an angry response when my phone rang. Unknown number. Tyler. This is Jennifer Chen, Emma's older sister. My blood went cold. Emma had an older sister who worked as a lawyer downtown. Hi, Jennifer. How did you get my? Emma gave me your number. She told me what happened. Jennifer's voice was crisp, professional, and absolutely furious. I want you to know that what your girlfriend did doesn't just affect you. I understand that. I feel terrible about Emma's. Do you? Jennifer cut me off. Because Emma called me crying last night. This project is worth 40% of her grade in her most important class. She's been planning to apply for graduate programs next year, and her GPA is crucial for her applications. Each word felt like a punch to the gut. Jennifer, I never wanted. What you wanted doesn't matter now. Her tone was ice cold. What matters is that your girlfriend's tantrum might derail my sister's academic future. So here's what's going to happen. You're going to make this right, whatever it takes. And if that psychotic girlfriend of yours costs Emma her scholarship or her grad school prospects, you'll be hearing from me professionally. The line went dead. I stood there in the hallway, phone still pressed to my ear, as students walked around me. Sarah's destruction was spreading like ripples in a pond, damaging everything it touched. My grades, my relationships, Emma's future, my reputation with professors. And Sarah thought I was being dramatic over just a phone. My hands shook as I opened my messaging app and scrolled to Sarah's contact. But instead of responding to her dismissive text, I did something that felt both terrifying and liberating. I blocked her number. Some bridges weren't worth saving. That evening, I was drowning my sorrows in cheap ramen when Jake burst through the front door with his laptop under his arm. Dude, you need to see this. He practically threw himself onto the couch next to me. I've been thinking about your situation all day, and I had an idea. If it involves time travel to stop me from dating Sarah, I'm listening. Jake opened his laptop and pulled up what looked like a data recovery forum. Remember my cousin Marcus? The one who works in digital forensics for that law firm downtown? I nodded, not sure where this was going. I called him about your phone. He says even with that level of physical damage, there might be hope. Jake's fingers flew across the keyboard. There's this company in Austin that specializes in catastrophic data recovery. Like, they've pulled files off phones that were in house fires. My heart jumped. Seriously? What's the catch? The catch is it's expensive as hell. We're talking $3,000, minimum. And that's just for the attempt, no guarantee they can recover anything. $3,000. Added to the replacement phone cost, I was looking at over $4,000 in damages. Sarah had turned a moment of jealous rage into a financial catastrophe. But here's the thing, Jake continued, pulling up the company's website. Marcus says if you're planning to take her to court anyway, this kind of professional data recovery attempt actually strengthens your case. Shows the court you made every reasonable effort to mitigate damages. I stared at the website. The company looked legitimate, testimonials from law enforcement agencies, insurance companies, even other courts. $4,000, Jake. That's more than I make in 3 months at my campus job. So make her pay for it. Jake's voice was harder than I'd ever heard it. Tyler, this isn't just about your phone anymore. Emma's sister called you today, right? This is affecting other people now. Sarah doesn't get to just walk away from this. He was right, but the thought of spending that much money on a maybe was terrifying. What if they couldn't recover anything? What if I went into debt for nothing? My laptop chimed with an email notification. My stomach dropped when I saw the sender, Dr. Patricia Wells, department chair. Mr. Thompson, please see me in my office tomorrow at 10 a.m. regarding the incident affecting your CS project partnership with Miss Chen. This matter has been brought to my attention by Professor Martinez. Jake read over my shoulder and whistled. Shit, man. The department chair. That's not good. It's getting worse. I showed him Jennifer Chen's earlier call in my phone log. Emma's sister basically threatened to sue me if this damages Emma's grad school chances. Wait, what? Sue you for what? You didn't destroy your own phone. But I'm the one who brought Sarah into this situation. I'm the one who didn't control my psychotic girlfriend before she sabotaged someone else's education. The words tasted bitter. In their eyes, this is my fault for having terrible judgment in women. Jake was quiet for a moment, then closed his laptop with a snap. You know what? Screw that. You're the victim here, not the perpetrator. Sarah made a choice to destroy your property. Sarah chose to sabotage your education. You don't owe anyone an apology for being attacked by someone you trusted. His words hit something deep in my chest. For the past 24 hours, I've been carrying this crushing guilt about Emma's situation, about disappointing Professor Martinez, about my own poor judgment. But Jake was right. I hadn't asked for any of this. The data recovery place, I said finally. How fast can they work? Jake reopened his laptop. According to this, they can have preliminary results in 48 hours for emergency cases. Costs extra, but do it. The decision felt like jumping off a cliff. Set up the appointment. I'll drive down to Austin tomorrow after my meeting with Dr. Wells. Tyler, are you sure? That's a lot of money to gamble. Sarah gambled with my entire future when she threw that phone. I pulled out my credit card, the one I've been saving for emergencies. This is an emergency. And when I get the bill, I'm adding it to her court filing. As Jake made the call to schedule the emergency data recovery, I opened a new document on my laptop and started typing. If Dr. Wells wanted a detailed account of this incident, she was going to get one. Every text message, every escalating argument, every red flag I'd ignored. Sarah wanted to play victim. Fine. But I was done protecting her reputation at the expense of my own. It was time everyone knew exactly who they were dealing with. The next morning's meeting with Dr. Wells was somehow worse than I'd imagined. Her office felt like a courtroom, with Professor Martinez flanked by 2 other faculty members I didn't recognize. Emma sat in a chair next to mine, looking like she hadn't slept in days. Mr. Thompson, Dr. Wells began, her voice carrying the weight of administrative authority. I've reviewed Professor Martinez's report about your situation. What concerns me most is the pattern of disruption this represents. Pattern? I shifted uncomfortably in my seat. This isn't the first time your personal relationships have interfered with your academic performance. She opened a file on her desk. Last semester, you missed 3 weeks of classes during what Professor Kim described as relationship issues. The semester before that, you requested extensions on 2 major assignments due to what you called personal stress. My face burned. I'd forgotten about those incidents, times when Sarah's emotional manipulation had left me too drained to function properly. Times when her manufactured crises had consumed entire weekends I should have spent studying. Those were isolated incidents, I said weakly. Were they? Dr. Wells leaned forward. Because it seems to me that you've consistently prioritized an unstable relationship over your educational commitments. And now that instability has contaminated Miss Chen's academic standing as well. Emma spoke up for the first time. Dr. Wells, Tyler isn't responsible for his girlfriends. Ex-girlfriend, I interrupted, then immediately regretted the correction when everyone turned to stare at me. Ah. Dr. Wells made a note in the file. Recent development. Yesterday. After she destroyed my phone. Professor Martinez cleared his throat. Tyler, the department has discussed this situation extensively. We're prepared to offer Miss Chen the opportunity to complete an independent project for full credit, given her exemplary record. Relief flooded through me until his next words hit like ice water. However, your academic probation status means you don't qualify for the same consideration. Academic probation. My voice cracked. I'm not on academic probation. Dr. Wells consulted her file again. Your GPA dropped below 3.0 last semester due to those missed assignments and poor exam performance. You received a warning letter in January. The room spun slightly. I vaguely remembered getting some official-looking mail from the registrar's office that I'd shoved in a drawer, too stressed about Sarah's latest drama to deal with administrative paperwork. What does this mean for my graduation? It means, Dr. Wells said slowly, that if you fail Professor Martinez's class, you'll be dismissed from the program. You'll need to complete your degree through general studies, which doesn't qualify you for the software engineering positions you've been pursuing. Emma turned to stare at me, and I saw the exact moment she realized her future was tied to someone who'd been academically circling the drain for months. Someone who'd been so consumed by relationship toxicity that he'd let his entire college career slip away. The data recovery, I said desperately. I'm driving to Austin today. If they can retrieve the project files. Mr. Thompson. Dr. Wells closed the file with finality. Even if you recover those files, you've missed today's presentation deadline. I can't give you special treatment that wouldn't be available to any other student in your situation. As we filed out of her office, Emma grabbed my arm in the hallway. Tyler, is it true? About the academic probation? About you missing classes because of Sarah? I couldn't meet her eyes. Emma, Jesus Christ. She ran her hands through her hair. I've been feeling sorry for you, but you've been failing anyway. This whole time, you've been dragging me down with you. That's not how it happened. Isn't it? Her voice rose, drawing attention from passing students. How long has she been controlling your life? How long have you been choosing her drama over everything else? I opened my mouth to defend myself, then realized I had no defense. Sarah hadn't just destroyed my phone yesterday, she'd been systematically destroying my life for months, and I'd let her do it. Emma, the data recovery might still work. Don't. She stepped back from me like I was contagious. Just don't. I'm taking the independent project. I'm not gambling my future on your ability to clean up your mess. Watching her walk away felt like the final piece of my college experience crumbling. Sarah hadn't just cost me money or a phone or even a grade. She'd cost me everything. My phone buzzed with a text from an unknown number. Tyler, it's Sarah. I got a new phone. We need to talk. This court thing is ridiculous. Somehow, she'd already heard about the lawsuit. Which meant she was taking it seriously enough to get legal advice. Good. It was about time Sarah learned that some consequences couldn't be manipulated away. The war was just beginning. The 3-hour drive to Austin gave me way too much time to think. Every mile marker felt like another reminder of how completely Sarah had derailed my life. By the time I pulled into the parking lot of Advanced Digital Recovery Solutions, my hands were shaking from caffeine and stress. The technician who examined my phone remains looked like he'd seen worse. Physical trauma is always challenging, he said, poking at the scattered components with a specialized tool. But your device had military-grade encryption and multiple backup protocols running. That actually works in our favor. How long before you know if it's possible? Initial assessment. 6 hours. Full recovery attempt if we find viable data. 48 hours minimum. He handed me a contract that made my credit card whimper. Emergency surcharge brings the total to $3,400. That's regardless of success rate. I signed before I could change my mind. Sarah wanted to play expensive games. Fine. But she was going to pay for every penny. The drive back to campus was interrupted by my phone ringing. Sarah's new number again. Tyler, answer me. I know you're ignoring my texts. Against my better judgment, I picked up. What do you want, Sarah? I want you to drop this ridiculous lawsuit. Her voice was shrill, panicked. Do you have any idea what this could do to my career? Do you have any idea what you did to mine? I merged onto the highway, putting her on speaker. Emma won't even look at me. I'm probably going to fail out of my program. But sure, let's worry about your marketing job. Tyler, be reasonable. It was just a fight. Couples fight. Couples fight. They don't commit property destruction worth thousands of dollars. The words felt good to say. They don't sabotage their partner's education because they're insecure. I'll pay for the phone, okay? I'll give you the $1,200. But you have to drop the court case. I almost swerved off the road. Now you want to pay. After telling me it was just a phone and I should get over it. I was angry. I wasn't thinking clearly. No, Sarah. You're only thinking clearly now because there are consequences. I could hear her crying, but it didn't move me the way it used to. It's not just $1,200 anymore. It's the data recovery costs, the replacement phone, the accessories, everything. How much? Her voice was small. $3,400. So far. The silence stretched so long I thought she'd hung up. I don't have that kind of money, she finally whispered. Then you should have thought about that before you decided to destroy my property. Tyler, please. My parents will disown me if this goes to court. My boss specifically asked about my emotional stability during my last review. If this becomes public record. For the first time since yesterday, I felt something like satisfaction. Sarah had spent months manipulating me with tears and guilt trips, making me feel responsible for her emotions while she systematically destroyed my self-worth. Now she was getting a taste of real consequences. You should have considered that earlier. I'll do anything. I'll go to therapy, Sarah. I cut her off. I don't want you to do anything. I want you to pay for what you broke, and then I want you to stay out of my life forever. But Tyler. I hung up and immediately blocked her new number. My phone rang again 30 seconds later. Different number. Tyler. A man's voice I didn't recognize. This is David Morrison, Sarah's father. I think we need to talk. My stomach dropped. Sarah had called in reinforcements. This was about to get much more complicated. Mr. Morrison, with respect, this is between Sarah and me. Son, Sarah is my daughter. When she's in legal trouble, it becomes my business. His voice carried the authority of someone used to getting his way. I'd like to meet with you before this gets out of hand. Game on. The coffee shop David Morrison chose was clearly meant to intimidate me, one of those upscale places downtown where a single latte costs more than my usual lunch budget. He was already waiting when I arrived, a silver-haired man in an expensive suit who screamed, "Corporate lawyer," from across the room. Tyler. He stood to shake my hand, his grip designed to crush fingers. Thank you for agreeing to meet. I slid into the chair across from him, acutely aware of my wrinkled campus hoodie compared to his tailored appearance. Mr. Morrison. Please, call me David. He signaled the waitress with the casual authority of someone who expected immediate service. Sarah tells me there's been some kind of misunderstanding about a broken phone. Misunderstanding? I kept my voice level despite the rage building in my chest. Your daughter destroyed $4,000 worth of my property because she was jealous of my study partner. That's not a misunderstanding, that's destruction of property. David's expression didn't change, but I caught the slight tightening around his eyes. Sarah mentioned the phone was damaged during an argument. These things happen in relationships. These things happen. I leaned forward. Mr. Morrison, would you consider it normal if your wife threw your phone at the ground because you received a work email from a female colleague? That's different. My wife and I are mature adults. And your daughter isn't. The words came out sharper than I intended. Because that's exactly my point. Sarah acted like a child, and now she wants to avoid the adult consequences. David sipped his coffee, probably some $15 artisanal blend, while studying me like I was a spreadsheet he needed to balance. Tyler, I've looked into your background a little. Your family doesn't exactly have the resources for a prolonged legal battle. The threat was subtle but clear. My parents were middle class at best, Dad was a high school teacher and Mom worked part-time at a dental office. David Morrison probably spent more on his monthly car payment than my family made in 6 months. Are you threatening me, Mr. Morrison? I'm offering perspective. He reached into his briefcase and pulled out a checkbook. Sarah made a mistake. She's young, she's emotional, and she acted poorly. But dragging this through small claims court benefits nobody. It benefits me. I get compensated for my losses. Do you? David clicked his pen with the precision of a man who'd made similar calculations before. Small claims court in this county takes 3 to 6 months to reach judgment. Even if you win, which isn't guaranteed, collecting on the judgment is entirely separate. Sarah is a student with minimal assets. My stomach sank as I realized where this was going. However, he continued, I'm prepared to write you a check right now for $1,500 to make this go away. Full settlement, you drop the lawsuit, everyone moves on. $1,500. My damages are over $4,000. David shrugged. Prove it. You'll need receipts, expert testimony on data value, professional documentation of your losses. Do you have any idea what it costs to properly litigate a case like this? Even in small claims. The coffee shop felt too warm suddenly. I hadn't considered the complexity beyond filing the initial paperwork. Sarah's casual destruction of my property was about to become months of legal procedures, documentation requirements, and potential counterclaims. And then there's the social aspect, David continued conversationally. Sarah's mentioned some, concerning behavior patterns. Late-night calls, obsessive texting, emotional manipulation. A good attorney might argue you created the hostile environment that led to her emotional breakdown. Emotional breakdown? My voice cracked. She destroyed my phone because I was doing homework. That's your version. David's smile was ice-cold professional courtesy. Courts hear 2 sides to every story, Tyler. Are you confident yours will sound reasonable under cross-examination? I stared at this man who was casually rewriting history to protect his daughter from consequences. Sarah had found the perfect enabler, someone with enough money and legal knowledge to turn her into the victim of her own violent behavior. Think about my offer, David said, standing and buttoning his suit jacket. $1,500, cash settlement, clean slate. It's more than you'll see otherwise. As he walked away, I realized Sarah hadn't just declared war on me. She brought in nuclear weapons. That night I sat in my apartment staring at my laptop screen, David Morrison's words echoing in my head. $1,500. Take it or risk getting nothing after months of legal battles I couldn't afford. Jake found me there at 2 a.m., still in the same position. Dude, you look like death. Did the data recovery place call? Her dad showed up. I filled Jake in on the coffee shop encounter, watching his expression shift from curiosity to disgust to rage. Wait, he threatened you? Like actually threatened your family's finances? Jake paced around our tiny living room. Tyler, that's witness intimidation or something. It's not illegal to point out that lawsuits are expensive. I rubbed my eyes, feeling the weight of the past few days crushing down on me. Maybe he's right. Maybe I should just take the money and walk away. Are you insane? Jake stopped pacing to stare at me. Sarah destroys your life, costs you $4,000, sabotages your education, and now her daddy swoops in to buy her way out of consequences for $1,500. That's not justice, that's enabling. My phone buzzed with an email from Advanced Digital Recovery. My heart raced as I opened it. Mr. Thompson, preliminary analysis shows significant recoverable data on your device. We've identified partial file structures that suggest your project files may be salvageable. Full recovery attempt will begin tomorrow morning. Estimated completion, 48 hours. I showed Jake the email, feeling the first spark of hope I'd had in days. See? Jake grinned. Don't give up yet. If they recover your files, you've got proof of exactly what Sarah destroyed. That's not just property damage anymore, that's documented sabotage of your education. But even as hope flickered, my laptop chimed with another email. This one made my blood run cold. Tyler, this is Margaret Shin, Emma's mother. I wanted to reach out personally about the situation affecting my daughter's academic standing. As you may know, Emma has been offered early admission to several prestigious graduate programs, contingent on maintaining her current GPA. This incident threatens everything she's worked toward. I've retained counsel to explore our options for recovering damages from all responsible parties. I hope we can resolve this amicably. Jake read over my shoulder and whistled low. Emma's family is getting lawyers involved. They're going after Sarah too. The implications hit me like a freight train. If they sue Sarah for damages to Emma's academic prospects, and I'm suing her for property destruction, and her dad is threatening to countersue me for emotional distress or whatever. This is turning into a legal clusterfuck. Jake collapsed onto the couch. Sarah really stepped in at this time. My phone rang. Unknown number again. Tyler. A woman's voice, shaky and desperate. This is Lisa Morrison, Sarah's mother. Please don't hang up. I put her on speaker so Jake could hear. Mrs. Morrison, I really don't think we should be talking without. Sarah told me what happened. What she did. Lisa Morrison sounded like she'd been crying. Tyler, I am so sorry. I had no idea things had gotten this bad. Mrs. Morrison. She's been lying to us for months. About school, about you, about everything. Her voice broke. We thought you were the problem. She made it sound like you were controlling, jealous, possessive. But when David told me about the phone, about the lawsuit, I started asking questions. Jake and I exchanged glances. This wasn't what I'd expected. I found her old phone, the one she claimed was broken. Tyler, she'd been screenshotting your conversations with other girls, building some kind of evidence file. She had photos of you talking to classmates, your work schedule, even your class roster with all the female students highlighted. My stomach dropped. Sarah had been stalking me systematically, documenting my every interaction like I was some kind of criminal. Mrs. Morrison, why are you telling me this? Because my daughter needs help. Real help. Not David's checkbook and legal threats. Her voice hardened with resolve. And because you deserve to know what you're really dealing with. The war was about to get much bigger. The next morning, I was jolted awake by my phone ringing at 6 a.m. Austin area code, the data recovery company. Mr. Thompson. This is Marcus from Advanced Digital Recovery. We've got some developments you need to hear about immediately. I sat up in bed, instantly alert. Good news or bad news? Mixed. The good news is we've successfully recovered about 80% of your files, including most of your CS project. The facial recognition code, the presentation files, even those photos you mentioned. Relief flooded through me so intensely I felt dizzy. That's incredible. When can I? Here's where it gets complicated. Marcus's tone shifted. During the recovery process, we found something else. Your phone was backing up more than just your personal files. It was also capturing and storing data from other devices on your shared network. My blood went cold. What kind of data? Text messages, photos, even some audio recordings from another device that was synced to the same cloud account. Mr. Thompson, I need to ask, did you knowingly set up surveillance software to monitor someone else's communications? What? No. I don't even know how to do that. I was fully awake now, pacing my room. What are you talking about? The files show extensive monitoring of someone named Sarah Morrison's digital activity. Screenshots of her social media, copies of her text conversations with other people, even GPS location data. This goes back months. My mind reeled. Sarah had access to my cloud account. She insisted on it, said couples should be transparent with each other. But I never monitored her stuff. Well, someone did. And Mr. Thompson. Some of these recovered files could be considered evidence of stalking or harassment, depending on how they were obtained. I slumped against my wall, the room spinning slightly. Sarah hadn't just been paranoid about my communications, she'd been projecting. She'd turned my phone into a surveillance device against herself, and now it looked like I was the one doing the stalking. Marcus, this is a setup. I never accessed any of that information. That may be true, but possession is possession from a legal standpoint. You need to understand, if this goes to court, the opposing counsel could use these files to paint you as an obsessive, controlling boyfriend who was monitoring his girlfriend's every move. After hanging up, I immediately called Jake, who was already at his morning class. You need to get home now, I said. This just got 10 times worse. An hour later, Jake and I were staring at my laptop screen, scrolling through the recovered files. Sarah's digital surveillance of me was even more extensive than her mother had described, but mixed in were hundreds of files that made it look like I'd been monitoring her just as obsessively. This is insane, Jake muttered, clicking through screenshot after screenshot. She basically weaponized your own phone against you. My phone buzzed with a text from yet another unknown number. Tyler, this is attorney Janet Walsh, representing Sarah Morrison. We've been informed that you may possess illegally obtained digital surveillance data involving my client. Any attempt to use such evidence in legal proceedings will result in immediate criminal charges for violation of privacy laws. We strongly advise you to retain counsel immediately. They're moving fast, Jake observed. Sarah's dad must have expensive lawyers on speed dial. Before I could respond, another text came through, this one from Emma. I heard your data recovery worked. Dr. Wells wants to meet with both of us at 2 p.m. Don't screw this up for me. But the message that really made my stomach drop came 5 minutes later, from a number I recognized as the courthouse clerk's office. Mr. Thompson, we've received a counterfiling in your small claims case. Sarah Morrison is now suing you for harassment, intentional infliction of emotional distress, and violation of privacy. Your case has been moved to district court. Please retain legal counsel immediately. Jake looked up from reading over my shoulder. Dude, they just turned your property damage case into a felony investigation. I stared at the phone, realizing that Sarah's moment of rage in that parking lot had been just the opening move. She'd been planning this war long before she threw my phone. And I'd walked right into her trap. The emergency meeting with my hastily hired attorney went about as badly as I'd expected. Jennifer Walsh, no relation to Sarah's lawyer, thankfully, had the kind of exhausted expression that came from dealing with young men who'd made catastrophically poor decisions. Let me make sure I understand this correctly, she said, reviewing the stack of papers I'd brought. Your ex-girlfriend destroyed your phone, you sued her for damages, and now she's countersuing you based on surveillance data that was recovered from that same destroyed phone. Data I never knew existed. I shifted uncomfortably in the leather chair that probably cost more than my monthly rent. She had access to my cloud account. She must have set up the monitoring herself. Jennifer's expression suggested she'd heard similar claims before. Tyler, from a legal standpoint, it doesn't matter who set it up. The files were recovered from your device, linked to your accounts. Proving you didn't know about them will be nearly impossible. So what are my options? Honestly, your best bet might be to drop your lawsuit and hope they drop theirs. She pulled out a legal pad and started sketching what looked like a timeline. Sarah's team is smart. They've escalated this beyond small claims where you could represent yourself. District court requires real legal representation, which you clearly can't afford long-term. The retainer fee alone had maxed out my credit card. What if we can prove she destroyed evidence? That she deliberately broke my phone to hide her own surveillance activities? With what proof? Your word against hers. Jennifer shook her head. Tyler, you're a college student with a history of academic problems and relationship issues. She's a young professional from a wealthy family with no criminal record. Guess who the jury's going to find more credible? Walking out of her office, I felt like I was drowning. Sarah had somehow turned her own crime into evidence of my wrongdoing, and now I was facing potential criminal charges while she played the victim. My phone rang as I crossed the parking lot. Dr. Wells. Mr. Thompson, I need to see you in my office immediately. We've received some concerning information about your situation. The administrative building felt like a death march. When I arrived at Dr. Wells' office, I found her waiting with the university's legal counsel and someone I didn't recognize wearing a police detective's badge. Tyler, this is Detective Rodriguez with the campus police, Dr. Wells said without preamble. He has some questions about allegations that have been brought to our attention. Detective Rodriguez consulted a small notebook. Mr. Thompson, we've received a complaint alleging that you've been using university resources to conduct unauthorized surveillance of another student. Can you tell me about your relationship with Sarah Morrison? She's not a student here. My voice sounded weak even to me. And I never conducted any surveillance. But you did have digital monitoring software running on devices connected to the campus network. The detective's tone was neutral, but his implication was clear. I don't know anything about monitoring software. The university's legal counsel leaned forward. Mr. Thompson, these allegations are serious enough that we're required to conduct our own investigation. Until that's complete, you're suspended from all computer lab access and campus network privileges. My stomach dropped. You're cutting off my internet access. How am I supposed to complete my coursework? You should have considered that before engaging in potential criminal activity, Dr. Wells said coldly. As I sat there, suspended from school, facing criminal charges, and financially ruined by legal fees, I realized Sarah had orchestrated the perfect revenge. She destroyed my phone, turned the evidence of her own surveillance into proof of my crimes, and was now dismantling my entire life piece by piece. And the worst part? I was starting to think she'd been planning this long before that day in the parking lot. This wasn't just about a broken phone anymore. This was about someone who'd spent months setting up the perfect trap, waiting for the right moment to destroy me completely. The breaking point came at 3 a.m. when I was hunched over my laptop in a 24-hour diner off campus, the only place I could get reliable internet now that I was banned from the university network. I'd been surviving on coffee and stress for the past week, trying to piece together Sarah's elaborate setup while staying current on coursework I could barely access. My phone buzzed with an email that made my blood freeze. The subject line read, regarding your harassment campaign, final warning. It was from Sarah, but sent through some kind of anonymous email service. Tyler, I know you're reading this. I know you're watching me, tracking my every move just like you have been for months. The screenshots, the location data, the way you always seem to know where I was, did you really think I wouldn't figure it out? Did you think I was stupid? I stared at the message, my mind racing. She was describing her own surveillance activities but attributing them to me. I have documentation of everything. Every time you followed me, every private conversation you recorded, every boundary you crossed. My lawyer says what you did is called intimate partner surveillance and it's a felony in this state. My hands shook as I kept reading. But I'm willing to make this all go away. Drop your ridiculous lawsuit, pay my legal fees, and publicly apologize for your obsessive behavior. Otherwise, Detective Rodriguez gets a very detailed report about your stalking activities. Your choice. The timestamp showed the email was sent 20 minutes ago. My phone immediately rang. Tyler. A voice I didn't recognize. This is Kim Morrison, Sarah's aunt. I'm calling because I think you deserve to know what's really happening. I almost hung up, assuming this was another trap, but something in her tone stopped me. Sarah's been planning this for months, Kim continued. She showed me screenshots back in February of texts she claimed were evidence of your controlling behavior. But Tyler, those conversations, they were completely normal. She was building a case against you even then. Why are you telling me this? Because I've watched Sarah do this before. Kim's voice was heavy with regret. In high school, she accused a boyfriend of cheating based on evidence she'd manufactured. Nearly ruined the kid's reputation. David and Lisa covered it up, got her therapy, thought she was better. My stomach churned. She's done this to other people. The surveillance software, the manufactured evidence, the victim narrative, it's a pattern. Sarah doesn't handle rejection or consequences well, so she preemptively destroys people before they can leave her. But the phone, she actually destroyed my phone. There's no denying that. Tyler, think about it. Why would someone destroy evidence unless they knew it contained something that would incriminate them? Kim paused. Sarah smashed your phone because she realized all her surveillance data was being backed up to your account too. She destroyed the evidence of her own crimes and then used the destruction to frame you for the very thing she'd been doing. The pieces clicked together with horrifying clarity. Sarah hadn't acted in jealous rage, she'd made a calculated decision to destroy evidence and frame me in one move. Kim, would you testify to this? Would you tell the police about the pattern? I can't. Her voice broke. David's already threatened to cut off my brother's business contracts if I interfere. Sarah's not just destroying you, Tyler. She's holding my entire family hostage to protect herself. After she hung up, I sat in that diner booth feeling the walls close in. Sarah had systematically isolated every potential ally, neutralized every witness, and turned every piece of evidence in her favor. But as I stared at her email demanding my surrender, something hardened inside me. Sarah had made one crucial mistake. She'd gotten so confident in her manipulations that she put her real plan in writing. And I was about to show her that two could play the evidence game. The revelation that Sarah's email essentially confessed to orchestrating this entire scheme should have felt like a victory. Instead, as I sat in that fluorescent-lit diner at 3 a.m., I realized it might be worthless. An anonymous email account, accusations that could be dismissed as the ramblings of a stalker ex-boyfriend, and no way to prove I hadn't sent it to myself. But Sarah's arrogance had made her sloppy in other ways. I opened my laptop and started digging through the recovered files from my phone, looking at them with fresh eyes. If Sarah had been using my device to monitor herself, there would be traces of her access. Login timestamps, IP addresses, maybe even browser history from when she accessed the surveillance tools. What I found was better than I'd hoped for. Buried in the technical metadata were dozens of instances where my phone had been accessed remotely from Sarah's apartment IP address, times when I was provably elsewhere on campus. She'd been logging into my accounts from her own computer, setting up the monitoring software, then deleting her tracks. But the phone's automatic backup system had been quietly recording every access attempt. My heart pounded as I compiled a timeline. February 15th, Sarah accessed my cloud account from her apartment while I was in Professor Martinez's office hours. March 3rd, she installed location tracking software while I was at work. March 18th, she activated the text message mirroring feature during my spring break visit home. Each timestamp was accompanied by GPS data proving I was miles away from her apartment when these surveillance activities occurred. I was so absorbed in documenting the evidence that I almost missed the man sliding into the booth across from me. When I looked up, I found myself staring at someone who looked like an older, more weathered version of the detective who'd questioned me at school. Tyler Thompson. He flashed a badge. Detective Mike Chin, Austin PD, Emma's my niece. My blood went cold. Detective, I can explain. Kid, relax. He held up a hand. I'm not here officially. Emma called me yesterday, crying about how this whole mess might destroy her graduate school prospects. She told me about your girlfriend's explosive behavior. Ex-girlfriend, I corrected automatically. Right. Ex-girlfriend who apparently has a talent for making evidence disappear and reappear in convenient ways. Detective Chin glanced at my laptop screen. What are you working on? I hesitated, then turned the laptop toward him. Proof that Sarah set up all the surveillance herself. Look at these access logs, she was remotely controlling my phone for months. Chin studied the data with professional interest. This is good work. Very thorough. But Tyler, you realize this makes your situation more complicated, not less. How is proving my innocence complicated? Because now you're not just dealing with property destruction anymore. If Sarah was conducting unauthorized surveillance, using your accounts and university network access to do it, that's identity theft, computer fraud, maybe even violation of federal communications laws. Chen leaned back in the booth. The question is, did she do this to frame you, or were you working together? The implication hit me like a slap. You think I was helping her spy on people? I think Sarah Morrison comes from the kind of family that can afford lawyers who'll argue exactly that. They'll say you were willing participants who had a falling out, and now you're trying to throw her under the bus. My phone buzzed with a new message. Sarah's latest anonymous email account. I know we're meeting tomorrow at the courthouse for the mediation hearing. I really hope you've come to your senses, Tyler. This could all be over if you just admit what you did and apologize. My lawyer says the harassment charges alone could get you expelled and ruin any chance of a career in tech. Is your pride really worth destroying your entire future? Detective Chen read the message over my shoulder and whistled. She's good. Making threats while maintaining plausible deniability. It's not just threats. I showed him the email from earlier. She's demanding I pay her legal fees and publicly apologize for crimes she committed. Classic Darvo, Chen muttered. What? Deny, attack, reverse victim and offender. It's a manipulation tactic. The actual perpetrator claims to be the victim and paints the real victim as the aggressor. He closed my laptop gently. Tyler, you're dealing with someone who's been planning this psychological warfare for months. Are you prepared for how ugly this is about to get? Before I could answer, my phone rang. Unknown number, but the area code was local. Tyler, this is Dr. Patricia Wells. I'm calling to inform you that we've received additional complaints about your conduct. Effective immediately, your suspension is extended to include all campus grounds. Security has been instructed to escort you off property if you're found on university premises. The line went dead. Detective Chin watched my face crumble and shook his head grimly. She's not just destroying your case, kid. She's destroying your entire life, piece by piece. And tomorrow's mediation hearing? That's going to be her final move. The mediation hearing was scheduled for 9 a.m. in a sterile conference room that smelled like industrial carpet and broken dreams. I arrived 30 minutes early with Detective Chin, who'd agreed to attend as a character witness, and my lawyer Jennifer, who looked like she'd rather be anywhere else. Sarah walked in at exactly 9 a.m. with an entourage that screamed money and power, her father David, her attorney Janet Walsh, and someone Jennifer identified as a forensic computer expert they'd hired to interpret the surveillance evidence. But the person who caught my attention was the woman trailing behind them, Sarah's mother Lisa, who looked like she hadn't slept in weeks. Before we begin, the mediator announced, I understand there have been some new developments in this case. Sarah's lawyer smiled like a shark. Yes, Your Honor. We've discovered that Mr. Thompson has been conducting an extensive harassment campaign against my client, including unauthorized surveillance, stalking behavior, and now he's attempting to manipulate evidence too. Actually, Detective Chin interrupted, standing up, I think there's something everyone needs to see first. He pulled out his phone and connected it to the room's presentation screen. Last night, we received some interesting information from Mrs. Lisa Morrison. Sarah's face went white. Her mother stepped forward, trembling but resolute. I couldn't let this continue, Lisa said, her voice barely above a whisper. Sarah, what you've done to this young man, it's exactly what you did in high school. And I have proof. The screen filled with screenshots, not from my phone, but from Sarah's old devices that her mother had kept. Months of planning, detailed notes about how to make Tyler pay for various perceived slights, tutorials she'd bookmarked about accessing other people's cloud accounts, even practice runs of her victim narrative. But the most damning evidence was a voice memo Sarah had recorded to herself, probably as a reminder, Phase 1 complete, I've got his login info and the monitoring software is running. He has no idea I'm documenting everything. When I'm ready to end this relationship, I'll have enough evidence of his stalking to destroy him completely. Dad will be so proud of how I handled this. The room was dead silent except for Sarah's sharp intake of breath. Mom, Sarah whispered, you went through my old phone. I went through all of them, sweetheart. Every device, every account, every lie. Lisa's voice grew stronger. I found the practice emails where you rehearsed your victim story. I found your research into restraining order requirements. I even found your backup plan if Tyler didn't fight back, you were going to escalate to claims of physical abuse. Sarah's expensive legal team was frantically whispering among themselves. Her computer expert was packing up his materials. Even her father looked like he wanted to disappear. Sarah Morrison, the mediator said slowly, do you have anything to say in response to this evidence? For the first time since I'd known her, Sarah had no words. No manipulation, no tears, no victim narrative. Just the stunned silence of someone whose elaborate house of lies had collapsed in real time. I'll pay for the phone, she finally whispered. All of it, Detective Chen said firmly. The replacement device, the data recovery, his legal fees, and damages to Emma Chen for the academic disruption you caused. Sarah nodded mutely. 3 months later, I graduated on time with my computer science degree. Emma and I both got into our top choice graduate programs. Sarah paid every penny she owed, plus interest. But the real victory wasn't the money. It was watching her learn, finally, that actions have consequences, and some games aren't worth playing when you're not the only one who knows the rules.